That distinction is enormous. What you have been doing exists in a legal gray area so wide that prosecutions are rare. What Derek's network is doing is wire fraud, mail fraud, and consumer deception. Those are federal charges with teeth. You don't know this yet. You just know the deposits are consistent and the orders keep increasing. The recognition. You are 22 when you first appear in a photograph that matters. A sneaker authentication account on social media posts a buyer beware breakdown of a particular model. They obtained 3 pairs from different sellers for comparison. One of the pairs in the post is traced to a reseller you supply. The account does not name you. They name the reseller. But inside the replica community, people start talking. Forums light up. Someone draws a line from the reseller to a supplier pattern that matches your ordering behavior. You are not named publicly, but the people who matter in this world know how to read between lines. You change your supplier contact. You rotate your storage unit. You tell your resellers to go quiet for 60 days. This is when you make the mistake that defines everything. Instead of stopping, you just get more careful. You treat the close call as a systems problem, requiring a systems solution. Better operational security. Better vetting. Better compartmentalization. You do not treat it as the warning it actually is. A forensic accountant looking at your life from the outside would flag the moment you get careful as the moment you cross from participant to architect. Participants can claim ignorance. Architects know exactly what they are building. The sister, her name is Camille. She is 19. She calls you one evening and she sounds different. Her voice has the particular flatness of someone who has just processed something difficult and has not yet decided how to feel about it. She tells you she overheard a conversation. 2 of her friends were talking about a guy they buy sneakers from online. They described the price point, the product, the Instagram account. They described you without knowing they were describing you. She recognized every detail. She asks you a question that you have been asking yourself for 2 years and never answering honestly. She asks you if you know what happens to the people at the end of the supply chain. Not the suppliers in China, not the resellers in your city, the factory workers who produce the materials that end up in counterfeit goods. She has been researching this, she says, because when she heard her friends talking, something felt wrong, and she needed to understand why. She tells you what she found. The supply chains for counterfeit luxury goods frequently intersect with labor violations that make the original brands look generous. Chemical exposure from unregulated dyes and adhesives. Workers paid below legal minimums in facilities with no oversight. Children in some documented cases. She is not lecturing you. Her voice is quiet and steady. She is just describing what she found. You tell her it is complicated. You tell her you are not the problem. You tell her the brands themselves use the same factories under different contracts. You say everything people say when they are trying to hold a contradiction together without choosing a side. She listens to all of it. Then she says something that you will replay for the rest of your life. She says she used the money you sent her to buy textbooks, and she wants to know which books those really are. Whether they are the kind of books you buy with clean money, or the kind of books that will cost her something she cannot afford to pay back. You do not answer. The line stays quiet for a long time. She hangs up gently. You sit in your apartment, and for the first time in 3 years, the math does not add up the way you need it to. The knock. Federal agents do not knock dramatically. They knock the way a neighbor would. 2 measured raps. A pause. Then the door opening, because they already have the warrant, and the knock is a courtesy, more than a request. There are 4 of them. 1 stays by the door. 2 move through the apartment with a quiet efficiency that tells you they have done this many times, and the shock on your face is not new information to them. The 4th sits across from you at your kitchen table and introduces himself in a tone that contains no hostility whatsoever, which somehow makes it worse. He slides a folder across the table, you open it, and see your life organized by someone else. Transaction records, shipping manifests, platform account histories, a photograph of your storage unit exterior, a printed thread from a forum with your supplier's contact pattern highlighted in yellow. Beneath all of that, a name you recognize immediately. Derek. The agent explains that Derek has been cooperating with investigators for 4 months. His network was not what he told you it was. His buyers included a retail operation that sold replicas as authentic to consumers who paid full price and received goods that in some documented cases caused skin reactions due to unregulated chemical treatments in the materials. 3 buyers filed complaints. Those complaints became a consumer protection case. That case expanded. Derek gave them a map. The map had your name on it, with a detailed description of your role as primary supplier for his operation. You think about Derek for a moment and feel something between rage and recognition. Because the thing about being betrayed by someone in an illegal business is that you have no legitimate grounds to be surprised. You entered a world where loyalty is currency, and currency has no moral denomination. The agent tells you the charges, some of which apply to the broader Derek operation, not just your standalone business. You think about Camille. You think about your parents. You think about the word architect. The twist you have been sitting here this entire time, thinking this is a story about getting caught, about scaling too fast, about trusting the wrong partner. About a kid who loved sneakers and made a series of incrementally worse decisions until federal agents showed up at his door. That is the story you signed up for. That is the arc that makes sense. But here is the thing about the story you actually ended up in. 3 days after the federal agent's visit, before you have retained an attorney, before you have told your parents, before you have done anything except sit in your apartment and stare at the wall, you receive a message through an email account you barely use. The sender is an address you do not recognize. The message contains one attachment, a photograph. It is a photograph of a child, maybe 9 years old. Small workshop. Concrete floor, industrial lighting. The child is painting shoe soles. The chemical containers in the background are not labeled in any language you recognize. The child is not wearing protective equipment of any kind. Below the photograph is a line of text. It says this child produced materials for 6 of the models in your last shipment manifest. The manifest number is exact. The models are specific. The sourcing documentation traces directly to the facility in the photograph. The message does not identify who sent it. It does not make a demand. It contains nothing except the photograph and the line of text. The cursor blinks at the bottom of the email, like it is waiting for you to respond, but there is no reply address. You close the laptop. You open it again. You close it again. Because here is what you understand now. Sitting in your apartment with a federal case building around you and a photograph of a 9-year-old on a screen you cannot look at and cannot stop looking at. The thing that ruins you is not the investigation. It is not Derek. It is not even the charges. The thing that ruins you is the recognition that you did the math wrong from the beginning. You calculated buy price and sell price, and margin and volume and risk rating and buyer psychology. You calculated everything. You built a framework so precise and so complete that you thought the framework was the whole picture. But you left something out of the equation. You left out the part of the supply chain you never looked at, because looking at it would have required you to stop. And stopping would have meant admitting that the formula you were following was not really about sneakers at all. It was about not feeling invisible. About being the kid from the neighborhood who figured something out that other people missed. About money arriving in your account every week and feeling, finally, like the math of your own life was working in your favor. The child in the photograph did not make a choice. The child in the photograph was inside your formula, on the cost side of the ledger. In a line item, you left blank, because filling it in would have changed the answer. You loved sneakers. That part was true. But what you built was not a sneaker business. It was a machine that converted your desire to matter into someone else's suffering. And the machine worked so smoothly, and the margins were so clean, and the buyers were so happy, that you never once stopped to ask what the machine was actually made of. The sneakers were always real. The cost was just paid by someone who never agreed to pay it. Camille's question comes back to you. Which books are those? The answer is the kind that cost her something she cannot afford to pay back. And the tuition was collected by someone too young to hold a pen, let alone sign an invoice. That wraps it up for today. The story you just heard is fiction, but the supply chain it describes is not. Counterfeit goods move through real facilities using real labor without oversight or protection, and the buyers at the end of that chain almost never look up the chain to see what is holding it together. If this one stayed with you, drop a comment and tell me the moment you felt it shift. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. See you then.